to the Ad Lib Podcast. Today is episode number 78. And with me today is not Franco, but Jan. How's it going, Jan?
How's it going, Andrea? Great to be back. Much better than last time around because last time I was sick. So great to be back. I mean, really looking forward to talk about movies, rewatches, and even some new films that I've just discovered this week. So yeah, great to be back.
Good to have you on. Good to have you on. It's been a busy week, no? Yeah, this one.
A lot, very. I mean, we were both in Mediterrane Film Festival, so a lot to talk about regarding this week.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the Mediterrane Film Festival a little later on. But to start off the podcast, first of all, as all our viewers and listeners know, here we talk about movies, we talk about series, we talk about video games. We've got no trailers today, which is a surprise. We always have one or two good trailers to talk about, but this week literally no interesting trailers came out. We have a bit of news. We'll be talking about an HBO Harry Potter TV series, which, well, there's some pretty positive news, especially if you're a fan of Succession like myself.
Same here.
Yeah. There's some very unfortunate news on the gaming side. If you're a fan of, DrDisrespect, you'll know exactly what's been going in the past week. Very unfortunate, as well as what's been going on with another very famous Twitch streamer, Nickmercs. We'll be talking about that later on as well. And that is unfortunate. I hate talking about that kind of news, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And we have also some interesting news with regard to an Elden Ring movie or TV series. Still not clear which one it will be, but George R.R. Martin, who fans of course, Game of Thrones will know as the author of the books, has been hinting towards the possibility of an Elden Ring movie or TV series. Elden Ring is obviously the game of the year for 2022. It was an absolute banger of a game, absolutely fantastic. George R.R. Martin actually wrote the lore for that game, so we'll talk about that later on. Then, with regard to reviews, the big reviews we have for today, of course, as you can see also in the title, are A Quiet Place Day 1, and we've got Kinds of Kindness as well, which are the big reviews. We'll also, Jan, be talking about The Boy and the Heron, right? Anything else you're going to be reviewing today?
Inside Out 2, because I watched
Inside Out 2, yes, that's a big one as well.
Don't have much to say about that film, to be honest, but
All right.
my thoughts are mostly going to be on Kinds of Kindness and even on The Boy and the Heron as well, because
those will be the two main reviews, basically.
Because I literally watched The Boy and the Heron just, how much, like an hour ago, maybe? Because finally I got the chance to see it after like months of waiting for it, basically. Yeah, so looking forward to that.
It feels like that movie should have been out on digital for quite a while. It's been out for a really long time.
Almost a year. Almost a year, definitely almost a year.
But to come out on digital, it's taken a ridiculous amount of time.
A lot. And even on Netflix, like it's still coming out in certain countries on Netflix. So I'm not sure why it took such a long time to come out, considering it won Best Animated Film as well in the Oscars. So strange one, but at least we finally got the chance to see it. So looking forward to give my thoughts on it.
Especially considering, and this then will lead us to what we've been watching this week, how something like, for example, The Bike Riders, which I got to see like a couple of weeks ago in the cinema now, I think two weeks ago in the cinema, is coming out on digital like this week. So yes, The Bike Riders is coming out on digital this week.
No clue about that, because I was actually
already
this week.
That's fast. How long has it been in the cinemas? Like 2 weeks, maybe?
2 weeks, I think.
2-3 weeks max.
But The Bike Riders, it was delayed significantly because of the writer's strike. I think that's my suspicion of the reason why it's coming out like right now. But yeah, I'm quite surprised about that one, actually.
Yes. It's a pity, because most people will be like, oh, we'll just wait a couple of weeks so I watch it on digital. No need to go watch it in the cinema.
That's a shame.
Hello, Keith, by the way. Hello, and obviously, hello to Keith. Hey, guys.
What's up?
And hello to all the viewers and listeners in the chat right now, watching live. Good to have you on. Always a good time here at the Ad Lib Podcast. And Jan, I think we can get straight into it now. Yes. But before we start, very important to all the viewers and listeners. We have a lot of, very loyal, very consistent viewers. As always, guys, please, your likes are much appreciated. Last week was crazy with the likes, was crazy with the comments, so let's keep it up. So don't forget to leave a like on the video if you're enjoying it. Help us push that algorithm. By the way, Jan, actually, before we actually get into our week, tell us a little bit. Last time you spoke about it as well, but tell us a little bit about your podcast for anyone who doesn't know about it.
So for those who don't know, obviously, I do a podcast every 1 to 2 weeks. It depends on the schedule. It's called the Pit Stop Lounge. Basically, it's a podcast about Formula One. What happens on the racetrack, at the paddock, outside of it, hosted by myself and my friend Malcolm Abdullah. Normally, we record the episodes on Monday because all the races take place on Sunday. But for this week, since obviously Malcolm couldn't make it today, we're going to record the episode tomorrow, and the next episode will be out right around Wednesday, Thursday. We're aiming at as well. Basically, it's a podcast about Formula One. We just do race review. We normally recap on what happened during every single Grand Prix weekend. We vote on our driver of the day, the loser of the day, like for example the driver who performed who had the worst performance of the entire weekend. And then we obviously do a little bit of banter because I'm a McLaren supporter and Malcolm is a Ferrari supporter, so we do have a little bit of banter between us because McLaren and Ferrari are big rivals. And tomorrow's episode, the new episode will be out on Wednesday. We will be talking about the Austrian Grand Prix. It's going to be a pretty packed episode because unfortunately one of the landowners who drives for McLaren had a really nasty incident with Max Verstappen, who is currently the World Championship leader. He's a 3-time World Champion as well. But beside of that, most of the podcast is focused on recapping every single Grand Prix weekend. We also tackle some news of the track as well. Right now, we're having it's pretty much silly season at the moment. Lots of drivers, lots of driver announcements, whether contract extensions or even like exits. And we've already seen a couple of drivers exiting, pretty much leaving the teams at the end of the season. We already know Lewis Hamilton is leaving. Now there's Esteban Ocon leaving. Lots and lots of drivers. Lots of major announcements with regards to drivers, and also with regards to other significant news of the track. I mean, we recently, for example, just to make it very brief, we've talked about the 2026 car, which is going to be a big year for the sport as well. So we mostly talk about this stuff in Formula One. Episodes are on YouTube as shown in the thumbnail here, and also on Spotify for those who like to prefer listening with just the audio. And numbers are still a bit low for now, but we're slowly getting there. And obviously, if anyone is a huge fan of Formula One, especially, it would mean the world for us, for me and Malcolm, to give us a like, follow, and also a share on our Instagram, YouTube pages, and also our Spotify pages. It would mean the word to us as well, since this is obviously my very first podcast as well. So already 13 episodes in, so we're doing great at the moment. I mean, very happy that we've had this idea and we've launched the idea basically, and we already had 13 episodes in, and hopefully more to come. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Good stuff, Jan. So let's get into it, Jan.
Yeah.
What has your week been like? Tell me. Mediterrane Film Festival.
I mean, you've said it, Andrea. I mean, most of my week was in Valletta for the Mediterrane Film Festival. It's hosted its second edition. The Mediterrane Film Festival, I mean, not just the Mediterrane Film Festival, but just with every single film festival, I always look forward to these type of events. I mean, for me, this was an opportunity to learn more about my passion, which is movies, and also for those who don't know, by the way, I'm aspiring to become a content creator / content writer, and most of these events the events that the Mediterrane Film Festival hosted were masterclasses, and we've also had a couple of events hosted by several content creators. We've had Josh Harmon, who has like around 4 million subscribers on Instagram. He uses sound effects with drums and other tools for comedy. We've had Louis Levanti, who specializes mostly on pop culture, movies, and like food reviews as well, and even stuff related to social media. We've also had Patrice Evra, which is the one I was looking forward to the most. Patrice, I mean, for those who know, I'm a massive Manchester United supporter. I've been supporting the team for 20 years, and Patrice Evra was one of the first players that was one of the players that was one of the first players I watched, basically, alongside the likes of Rooney, Ronaldo, etc. So, and I've also had the opportunity to meet him in person, took a selfie as well. It's something that I will never forget. I mean, he's one of my all-time favorite players, and it was a surreal moment to see him there, giving out his talking about his basically his transition from being a football player into transition to social media, becoming a household name. He has a lot of subscribers, like almost 20 million now on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken. And it was, this festival was, I've had such a great time with this festival, because I've learned not only from the masterclass, because the masterclasses were held by some real big heavy hitters. I mean, I've attended 4 masterclasses: the one, the production design, the editing, the composing one I've also attended, and the direction. And the direction was hosted by Chad Stahelski, who is the director of the John Wick franchise, and he's also the stunt double of Keanu Reeves. That was surreal. I mean, I'm a huge action junkie. I love the John Wick movies. The Matrix is one of my all-time favorite movies. It was a game changer in every way. So the fact that I've also asked him 2 questions and meeting him in person, it was unreal. I mean, you don't get these opportunities are once in a lifetime, basically. And even the master classes by the production design and the editing, they were conducted by Nathan Crawley, who collaborated with multiple projects with Christopher Nolan. The editing masterclass was hosted by Yorgos Mavroparsidis, who has edited every single Yorgos Lanthimos movie. So when you get these opportunities, you have to take them, because for someone who aspires to be a content creator through movies, this was one to remember for me, because and even the fact that that I can watch them for free online, and just even getting the knowledge and the experience from these people, especially from the content creators as well. It was such a joy to attend. I mean, I've enjoyed every single event, regardless of how long the days were. It was such a joy to behold, and I really can't wait for what next year will hold. Maybe we have another similar festival in the future. Who knows?
Definitely.
Your thoughts on I mean, I can talk about my films, or do you want to get your thoughts on the Mediterrane Film Festival?
Yeah, let's get into the Mediterrane first. We'll get that done and then talk about the films.
Fair enough.
Like you, Jan, I really liked, if I had to talk about my favorites, I would say the Simon Franklin one was excellent.
That was outstanding.
Yeah, the way he broke down like the thought process behind the score he made for Avatar 2, the thought process of, okay, now no drums because there's gunfire, now no loud sounds because there's dialogue, so you don't want to. I was really, really fascinated as well there was a guy who said how easygoing he seems to be. And that really blew my mind, like someone who has made, the score for Avatar 2, and he has zero ego. Like he's there just at the service of the director, or at least that's the way he speaks.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard to put up a persona of like, oh, he seems to be genuinely just there at the service of the director. What do you need from me? Do you need loud music? Here's some loud music. Do you need quiet music? Here's quiet. Do you need absolute silence? Absolute silence. Zero ego, just there at the service of, to be fair, when you're working with James Cameron, it's not like you can take over the reins.
You're working with a heavy hitter director. I mean, this guy has made some of the best action films ever. He's made a film that's won 11 Academy Awards. So you're not messing around with someone here. You don't need to mess around with James Cameron. So my ad as well. I was blown away by how he was breaking down how he basically he had like 100 tracks for his score, and I was like, I had no idea when all those lines were starting to pop up in front of the large screen. That one I was very, very impressed by what he was doing, basically.
And obviously the Chad Stahelski one was also great. Not just because it's Chad Stahelski, but also he gave, I think, a lot of very, very useful advice with regard to action and the importance of action being in service to the story, not just action for action's sake. And coincidentally today, I have to talk about an episode which was literally just action for action's sake. I'll talk about that later on. Yeah, Jan.
Shout out as well to Morgan Ketkuti, who was the second speaker with Chad Stahelski, because he gave some really, really fascinating insight on his professional work and how he got into the industry as well. So that was probably my favorite masterclass, if I'm being honest. From the four, besides the Patrice Evra one and the production design one of Nathan Croy, that was brilliant. I mean. And even the fact afterwards, I just asked him about how it was like working with Christopher Nolan. He told me he has been knowing Christopher Nolan pretty much his entire life, basically. And so the fact that he shared his experience about the director that got me into loving movies, basically, it was amazing. Yeah, I mean,
he worked with him in 1992 on Insomnia.
Jeez,
that's first.
That's 2002. That's 2002.
That's 2002.
No, the first one was Following, and then Memento, then Insomnia.
Insomnia was 2002. Sorry.
2002.
You worked on him on Insomnia first, I believe. Right? That's what he said.
Yes.
And basically worked on. I believe it's only Oppenheimer which he didn't work with. At least he didn't.
And Inception.
All right. And Inception.
And he also, and I want to add as well, he also told me that Interstellar was his favorite production design he worked on, and also the toughest one. And which was
I can imagine.
I thought Tenet was going to be the toughest production design, because that film is so complicated to follow as well. Even like the set design as well, it's very, very complicated. So I was expecting Tenet to be the answer, but Interstellar, I'm also I'm not very much surprised about this pick. I mean, that's an epic film, how it is as well. So yeah.
He himself mentioned how he didn't really get the screenplay to Tenet. He didn't really understand it.
I mean, most of the audience didn't got the script of Tenet, to be fair.
I mean, if the team who are working on the film didn't really understand the screenplay.
I actually look for all the hate that Tenet gets. I actually like it. I think it's one of his more underrated films. Not one of his best ones, definitely, because there are some parts in it that are needlessly complex. I mean, but I admire it for what that movie is, basically, because it's original.
As a technical achievement, I think. As a technical achievement, I enjoyed it.
Yes.
Story-wise, and like emotions and.
The characters aren't the strongest, unfortunately.
To be fair, the characters are literally the protagonist. Like, there's no names. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Just John David Washington, Robert Pattinson.
But I admire it. I admire the film for what it strives to be, and even the music's in that film. It's addictive. I mean, I love the score. I mean, some of the tunes they're on repeat on my playlist for a number of years now. It's like when I do some workouts. I mean, I use that music basically because it really, really helps. Yeah.
And the start of the amazing collaboration between Ludwig Göransson and Nolan, right?
One of the best composers.
Yep, indeed. I mean, one Oscar down already, and many
and
more
fully deserved. Let's face it.
100%.
Yeah.
So and I think overall both of us are quite very positive, actually. Very positive with regard to the Mediterrane Film Festival. I had a blast. I basically spent a whole week in Valletta.
Yeah, even me. I mean, I spent pretty much Thursday, Friday, and Saturday full days there. And even yesterday, I was in Valletta because I went to watch Inside Out. Then straight afterwards, I went to watch England, which was painful to watch, to be honest, until they scored in the last few minutes. But anyhow.
So let's get into the movies now.
Yes.
So Jan, you've watched movies and series this week.
I'm going to just give a bit of June, to be honest, I haven't watched many films in June. I mean, compared to April and May, where I've watched way more films. June, I've only watched like new films. I have them like right in front of me. I only watched like 6 films, like new films. Just to get that very quick, I finally watched Godzilla -1 because it was out on Netflix. And yeah, you, Andrea, you and Franco are spot on that film. I mean, it's great. I mean, I'm not a Godzilla fan myself, but I was very impressed by the film. I mean, especially when it came to the human character side. I mean, the Godzilla films were never once on the Godzilla films in general were never once that were the best when it comes to storytelling, and especially with the humans. But this one, I was just logged in for its entirety, and I still need to like do my full review on Letterboxd about it. But and even the fact that it was set in Japan, it made it feel like this is authentic Godzilla, in my opinion. So very, very impressed by it, and even just straight after watching Godzilla versus Kong, the one that came out this year, basically. The difference is night and day. I mean, it's night and day, the difference. Even the visuals in this one are amazing. And even the fact that the budget of this was just $15 million, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was $15 million.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And for the stuff they did here, it's outstanding. I mean, I really, really... The best visual effects was fully deserved for this one. So... yeah, fantastic film. I mean, I would probably give it like a 4.5 star, definitely. I mean, I don't really have a lot of issues to say about it. I mean, maybe a little bit, slightly a bit overlong towards the end, but
bit too long. It's bogged down a little bit midway to the
the pacing slowed down.
Two-thirds of the way in.
The pacing slowed down a bit towards the middle portion of the film, but I was very, very impressed with the overall. I've watched Apocalypse Now, the Redux version.
1 second, Jan, because the movie man is here. Just going to say hi to him. Hello, my cinematic compatriots. Hope you're doing well.
What's up?
I can't wait to hear the conversation today. Hello, the movie man. By the way, Franco said hi as well. The movie man had a very good time last week having a chat with you. We need to get in touch, the movie man, to have you on the podcast. By the way, still need to set that up. Thanks for being here. You were talking about...
I've watched Apocalypse Now. Now, Apocalypse Now, I've watched it a long time ago, but I never watched it in its entirety. I've only watched the second act, and then I just gave up for some apparent reason. This movie is a 5 out of 5 if I've ever seen one. I mean, it's a straight up masterpiece. Now I've watched the Redux version, and I would avoid the Redux version if I'm being completely honest. I would stick to either the theatrical version or the final cut, because the Redux version, the added scenes. I don't know if you watched the Redux version, Andrea. The Redux version just slows down the movie completely. It's like 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, that's the one I watched. The Redux version.
The Redux version, there's like a portion of the film where they go into this French plantation family, and it feels very, very needless. I mean, I can understand that the human characters need to take a breather and get to know more of their side. But for me, I would have taken that sequence completely out, and it wouldn't even lose like the pacing of the film. But like the whole film in general, it's a masterpiece. It's a straight out masterpiece. I don't know I think you've watched it, Andrea, but I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
the rating as well on the screen.
I mean, no, it's a 5. No, this is a 5 star. I mean, there's no complaints. Even how the one that was so impressed about this movie was how dark it is and how mean this entire movie is, and even like from how the movie starts, the entire thing is just outstanding from top to bottom. I again need to give my full thoughts on Letterboxd, so I will post a link if I would give my thoughts on Apocalypse Now. Obviously, watch Kinds of Kindness and Inside Out 2. Will give my thoughts later on those films. I've watched Hitman, the Richard Linklater film on Netflix. Richard Linklater, big fan of him. Boyhood, the Dazed and Confused, the Before trilogy for me, that still remains. Hitman, that one, yeah. The Before trilogy for me, it's the best romantic trilogy of all time. So I was really looking forward to this one. To be honest, I was a bit surprised by the direction this movie took, but I think this is a really, really good movie. I wouldn't say it's outstanding. I think it would be like a 3.5 or a 4 star I would give it, but the performances are great from Glenn Glenn Powell and Adria Arion. I think I've said her name correctly. The comedy in this is it hits every single. It always, it's consistent. It hits, but for me, I didn't quite. I wasn't on the verge of loving it. I think as much as you did. I think, Andrea, but I think again, pacing wise, there was like. At first, I wasn't quite sure where this was heading, but then once the plot finally got going, I was on board. So it does have a bit of a slow start. I don't think it's his best film. It's Linklater's best film. I still think Boyhood. I think Boyhood and the Before Trilogy are way better than this one. But I enjoyed it. I think it's a good time. If you have nothing to watch on Netflix, I would recommend seeing this film. But yeah, that's pretty much on Hitman. I've watched Ghost Watch, a horror film. Now, I first heard about this film in Chris Stuckman's Halloween special episode, basically. It was a couple of years ago. This came out in 1992 in the UK. It's basically... it was aired in Halloween of 1992, and the BBC broadcasted this, basically. Basically, it's about this... A bunch of cameramen, basically, and they investigate like a paranormal investigation. They basically investigate a haunted house, but this movie has gone under the radar massively. I don't know if you've watched it, Andrea.
I have not.
No, watch it. If you love supernatural stuff or horror movies, this one I would strongly recommend. It's very authentic, the way it's shot. And even just little details, like it shows the numbers on the screen, because it is filmed like a Halloween episode, basically. And a lot of people, just to go quick on this one, this was broadcasted in Halloween of 1992, and a lot of people tuned in halfway through it, and many people were contacting this fake number, and everyone thought it was real, and kids were actually. They were awake when this was broadcasted, and everyone, a lot of people were terrified by this, and I can understand why. I mean, even how it's the way it is filmed, and the way it is shot, and even like a lot of famous people are in this. Michael Parkinson. There's Craig Charles from Red Dwarf. I don't know if you've seen Red Dwarf, Andrea.
Yes,
it's a very popular British sitcom. It's one of my favorite British sitcoms. He's in it. A lot of people thought this was real, and the way this was shot, it is very authentic, and it's very creepy as well throughout its entirety. And I was really impressed by it. I mean, everything that Chris Stuckman does, by the way, I mean, I'm on board to see. He's one of my favorite critics on YouTube, and this has always been on my watch list. So I was very impressed by this film. It's easily like a 4.5 in my eyes. And to wrap off what I watched this week and this month, more like, I've watched the classic Planet of the Apes movies, from the original Planet of the Apes till Battle of the Planet of the Apes. The original is a classic. Surprised by how quiet it was, and how character-driven it was, and how it sets up this universe, basically. It's one of my favorite sci-fi films in existence. It came out in the same year as 2001, so 1968 was a fantastic year for sci-fi movies. The sequels, however, they're nowhere near as good as the original. I mean, Beneath is just basically, it's a rehash of the first film, the first 45 minutes, and then it just goes absolutely batshit crazy. Escape is probably the best of the sequels, and then the last two, Conquest is a guilty pleasure, but Battle, it's terrible. I mean, it looks very cheap. It's unwatchable. Still need to watch the Andy Serkis ones of the Planet of the Apes films, and I also need to watch the Tim Burton one of Planet of the Apes, which I haven't heard great things about it, by the way. So I'm not really looking.
I think your mic switched off, Jan.
Yeah. Hello.
Okay, we're good now.
No, my mic switched off a bit. No, as I was saying, I'm not looking forward to watching the Tim Burton one. To be honest, I haven't heard great things about it.
Yeah. Hello, Yella. By the way, hey guys.
Hello. Hi.
How's it going, Yella? Hope you're doing well. How's sunny London going?
No, the reason I was watching the Planet of the Apes movies was because I've watched the newest one, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, so it got me in the urge of watching these movies again. But other than that, movies, that's pretty much it, what I've watched this month. Obviously, I watched The Boy and the Heron just recently. We'll give my thoughts later on about it. And with regards to TV shows, The Boys at the moment. The Boys season 4, halfway through it, and tomorrow or Wednesday, I'll be watching season 3 of The Bear. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching The Bear. I haven't had time to watch it this week, as we've said. We spent the whole week in Valletta, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
So no time to watch The Bear, unfortunately. I watched one episode, which was incredibly good. Episode 1 of season 3. So obviously looking forward to that. What I did get to watch, however, was the season finale for Dark Matter. Obviously, no spoilers here, but I think Dark Matter overall has been a fantastic series. Highly recommended for fans of sci-fi, I wouldn't really call it realistic, or there's nothing realistic about it, but it's very science-based, so it's not Star Wars sci-fi. It's a more grounded kind of sci-fi with the whole multiverse element still there. As grounded as you can make the whole concept of the multiverse, basically. The final episode, I wouldn't say the final episode was one of the best episodes, still a very solid episode. I thought episode 8 was better overall as an episode. I would probably episode 7 was better. But yeah, I still had a very good time watching it, and highly recommend checking out Dark Matter. I also watched The Acolyte, episode 5, and just to make a quick comment, The Acolyte episode 5 is probably the best episode of the bunch. It's called Night. With regard to what you see in the episode, the action is solid stuff. It's not bad. There is, in my opinion, some very bad blocking at times in the action sequences where the character placement, the character placement is quite poor, where you can barely see anything that's going on. The lighting as well, I understand the lighting is there because of the CGI. You don't want to show off the bad CGI, but it is what it is. But some of the lighting is really bad as well. I was struggling to see what was going on. I was okay with this episode. Still, Amanda Stenberg, disappointing in her performance. I'm really not liking her performance at all. Some shocking kills, that I will admit. I mean, director Alex Garcia Lopez and writers, I commend them for having the cojones to kill off certain characters. Still, not convinced by the show, not convinced at all. And the whole idea of action for action's sake. The action here was just for action's sake. No storytelling was happening with the action. It's just, okay, now he's dead, he dies, and he does a flashy move, and he does a flashy move. But nothing is really being told. No story is being told through the action. Keith, by the way, from the Mediterrane Film Festival selection of movies, I watched The Stranger's Case and The Substance. Both are great and highly recommended. Thank you for that, Keith. Great to hear you had a good time also at the Mediterrane Film Festival. Yes, Substance I need to check out as well.
Yeah,
heard some very good stuff about it.
You heard great things about it, actually. It premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, if I'm not mistaken.
Could be. I don't know.
Acolyte, not looking forward to watching it.
No. Avoid that. I watched episode 2 of House of the Dragon season 2. I'm going to check out episode 3, probably tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But episode 2 of House of the Dragon was a sigh of relief after watching The Acolyte. Like, again, the opposite of The Acolyte, right? And the lighting is incredible. Visual effects, the composition of the scene, the blocking of the characters, the mise-en-scène, and everything about it is just perfect. It's so rare to see a show with brilliant direction. It's so rare because shows generally focus on the show. The budget focuses on the showrunner, and the directors are there just to do what the showrunner tells them. But in House of the Dragon, you can tell there is incredible talent behind the camera as well, and it really helps. It really helps. It's a real breath of fresh air, House of the Dragon. Boys, I still have to watch, so that I'll probably check out this week as well. And like I said, The Bear, I need to check out as well. Oh my, continuing on with the Acolyte, who knew Andrea was such a glutton for punishment. The movie, man, it's Star Wars, dude. As much as I hate Star Wars, I can't stop watching Star Wars.
They're butchering Star Wars big time at the moment.
They are.
Unfortunately, they are.
Minus Andor. Andor is good. Andor is very good.
Even the game that's coming out from Ubisoft, I'm not hyped for that game. I'm quite worried actually.
Not at all, not at all. With regard to movies, we're going to review all of them. We'll talk about them later on. Quiet Place Day One, Kinds of Kindness, and The Boy on the Heron we'll talk about later on. So, Jan, shall we get into the news?
Yes.
By the way, before we get into the news, viewers and listeners, if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to leave a like. Good to have so many viewers in the chat as well. So thank you for all your comments and keep them going. By the way, for those of you who have not yet done so, let us know what you've been up to this week. What have you been watched? Have you been to Mediterrane Film Festival? The movie man probably doesn't really know what we're talking about when we're talking about the Mediterrane Film Festival. But basically, it's a film festival which was started in Malta last year, where we've gotten a lot of like big name like directors. We had editors, composers who came for masterclasses. We had a lot of movies from all around the Mediterranean as well. I saw the TV Glow as well. Kinds of Kindness, which we got to watch, and many other movies as well, which we got to watch this week. So, Jan, let's get into the news now, because unfortunately this week there were no trailers, which really caught my attention. So we can move on straight to the news, and I'm going to start off with one for the Harry Potter fans. I'm going to bring it up on the screen now.
Curious to see what this show is going to be like, eh?
No, I am a big Harry Potter fan. I am a big Potterhead.
Same here.
I was crazy about the books. I would always be there waiting, first in line on the night when the books come out. I would read them in basically one sitting, one whole night. I wouldn't sleep, basically, and read the whole thing.
I can't even read 5 pages in one sitting, let alone a whole book.
I remember the last book. I literally did not sleep.
I hate reading. I don't like reading.
So I'm crazy about Harry Potter. I really enjoyed the Hogwarts Legacy, which was the Harry Potter game, which released like last year, I believe that was. Yeah, it was a very good game as well. Highly recommended if you haven't checked it out. And I've been really interested to see what HBO are going to do with this Harry Potter TV series, right? And so far, so good, because as you can see from the title, HBO's Harry Potter TV series lands Succession veterans as showrunner and director. And here we are talking about Francesca Gardiner and Mark Mylod. Now, for those of you who are not big fans of Succession, you will not have heard of these names, of course. Francesca Gardiner was the screenwriter and producer on Succession. Mark Mylod was the director. He was a director on Game of Thrones. He was a director, as you can tell from the comments there, on Succession as well. On Succession, he actually directed my personal favorite episode, which was Connor's Wedding, which was episode 3 of the final season. Which, no spoilers for Succession, but I mean that episode was just insane in everything, especially in the direction. Mark Mylod. Yes, Jan?
It's a brilliant episode. I mean, that entire final season was perfect, but Connor's Wedding was next level. I mean, it was the writing was the writers were on fire on that episode especially. Yeah.
And he also directed The Menu. I don't know if you watched The Menu, Jan.
Yes, I've watched it. I think last month or April. It's a fantastic satire. It's a fantastic movie. I loved it. The writing was very smart. Ralph Fiennes was outstanding. And even Anna Taylor-Joy. I just love how it's set up. It takes the Mickey out of the restaurant industry. Basically, it's a fantastic movie. I highly recommend it. Yeah.
So to see this kind of talent now come to the HBO TV series is great to see, right? Because that's what we want. Talent working on our favorite franchises and so on. Jan, what do you think? Before we get into it, Jan, by the way, because
Yeah.
the movie man, it's cool to see you enjoying House of Dragon. As of now, I remember one of your last solo reviews. Yes, lal, the movie man, Ahmed, was on the series premiere, and you were somewhat meh on the show and wasn't necessarily hooked in from the beginning. I was not. I thought the first episode was a little slow, but I'm to blame because the first episode had to be slow to set up all the, you know how House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones is. It's insanely packed with fascinating characters, and the first episode needed to be slow to set up all those characters. I loved season 1 of House of the Dragon, the movie, man, and I'm loving season 2. So far, I'm really pleased with it. I've been making my way through the film festival circuit as of now, so I'll definitely have to add the Mediterrane Film Festival to my list so I can check it out. The movie, man, if you're ever interested, let me know, contact me, and we can spend some time here as well. Be good to have you here. So message me if you're ever interested, the movie man. And you can go to the beach as well, because this is the perfect time to go to the beach. So Jan, what do you think about this whole thing about the succession veterans?
Yeah, before before I get my thoughts, by the way, don't kill me, House of the Dragon. I have yet to see season 1, the whole show basically. I mean, it's one of my watch list shows to watch. So I'm trying that this month I'll start watching the show. So I'm eager. I'm obviously looking forward to watching House of the Dragon. But yeah, the Harry Potter series. At first, to be honest, I was a bit skeptical because we've already had the films, and the films, if you're gonna compare them to the books, they aren't the most they aren't like the most faithful to the books. So I was a little bit skeptical at first with where the series was going, which the direction the series was going for, basically. But as soon as I've heard Mark Milo headline the show, basically, and even Francesca Gardner, who were involved in Succession, I'm my mind is much at better ease now. So again, haven't heard a lot of things about this Harry Potter show so far, but the fact that it's from Mark Milo and Francesca Gardner, and also the fact that HBO are doing this. I mean, HBO normally their shows are bangers. I mean, we've had a lot of great, HBO have made a lot of great shows in the past and even presently at the moment. So at the moment, still need to know more about where this is heading for, but so far, as you said before, Andrea, so far so good. I'm really intrigued to see where this is going. I'm not quite sure if they're going to follow a bit like what the movies and the books do, but I think the more faithful to the books, I think the fans of the source material would be much more pleased. But we don't know yet how this is going at the moment. Don't know.
By the way, the movie man asking us, what's your favorite creature from the Harry Potter universe? Mine are the Phoenix and the Niffler. I would say my favorite creatures would be Bucky, the Hippogriff. The Hippogriffs are so bloody cool. And what's the name of those creatures that Harry could see, that rode the carriage, that led the carriages, but he could see them because he had seen someone die?
Which movie though? Because I think I know which creatures you're talking about, but I think on my head, which the movie I'm not quite sure.
5 or 6. Oh, I know they led the carriages. Harry could see them. Harry and Luna could see them because they had seen them. They had seen someone die, and you could only see them.
I think it's the 6th one. I think it's the 6th film, Half-Blood Prince. I'm not sure though. I'm not sure. I might be wrong, but I think it's Half-Blood Prince. Wow, that is such a difficult question to answer. I mean, because
Testrel,
the
breed of winged horse with a skeletal body, a face with reptilian features, and wide leathery wings that resemble the bats. I'd say the Testrel is the most fascinating. The whole concept of seeing someone dying and then being able to see them, that I love.
This is such a difficult question to answer because there are so many great. The designs of the creatures are so fascinating. I don't know. The Hungarian Horntail, I'm a huge fan of the dragons in the Goblet of Fire. I've always been a dragon person, so the Hungarian Horntail has always been one of my all-time favorite creatures in the Harry Potter universe. Even Hedwig, I love, to be honest. But anyhow, I think those are my favorite creatures because when it comes like what's my favorite creature or movie or stuff like that, it's so tough to choose basically. But I think I would choose the Hungarian Hornet because I just love dragons, to be honest. Yeah.
Mela. And talking about dragons, Mela, this is a good segue to another
Yes.
topic we have today. One video game that had an insane amount of dragons was Elden Ring.
Elden
And
Ring.
we just got some big news. Well, big or small, depends on your interpretation.
DLC as well.
Well, there's the DLC going on right
Shadow
now.
of the Earth Tree.
Shadow of the Earth Tree. Now, I had finished Elden Ring 2 years ago when it came out, but I hadn't played it since. So what I've done is I've restarted with a new character. I'm basically finishing off Mountaintop of the Giants. Finished off Mountaintop of the Giants, basically, and now on my way into Mogwin's Palace, basically.
Okay.
On my way down to Mogwin's Palace. Once I'm done with that, then I'll get into the DLC then.
Can't get into the game.
Have you played it?
My brother plays it all the time. He plays every time I arrive home. If it's from an event or work, I just see him playing Elden Ring. Basically, he's obsessed in the Souls game series, the Souls-like game series. Basically, Elden Ring, and he's put in like 500 hours in it. I mean, I'm not joking. I just can't get myself into these games because of its difficulty. Maybe someday I'll get into Elden Ring or maybe a Dark Souls game, but because right now just have so much going on, and even with regards to games, I'm currently playing one at the moment, and I'm like 3/4 into it, so I have a lot of games still to play. But Elden Ring is one game that I really want to try out sometime because I've heard amazing things about it. I know it's an outstanding game. And part of it is because of George R. R. Martin and Hidetaka Miyazaki as well, who's the creator of the game and From Software, yeah.
Now, non-gamers in the chat, hear me out, right? Because I'm sure you're probably switching off right now. So we just got a tease from George R. R. Martin, who obviously, like I said before, wrote the Game of Thrones books, the Game of Thrones novels. On his blog, he's a very prominent blogger. He writes a lot on his blog, basically. And as we can see in the article from IGN, hot on the heels of the release of DLC Shadow of the Earth Tree, George R. R. Martin has teased an Elden Ring movie or TV show. In a post on his blog, Game of Thrones also wrote about winning awards, and in doing so strongly suggested an adaptation of From Software's masterpiece is indeed in the works. Oh, and about those rumors you may have heard about a feature film or television series based on Elden Ring, I have nothing to say, he said. Not a word. Nope, not a thing. I know nothing. You never heard a peep from me. Mum. What rumor? Whereas From Software chief Hidetaka Miyazaki and his team did all the rest. So basically, George R. R. Martin did the world building, Hidetaka Miyazaki did all the rest. Now, from what I believe, George R. R. Martin actually did the world building. Then Hidetaka Miyazaki took that world building and destroyed it, in the sense of previously there was this world that George R. R. Martin had written, and now it's the kind of like the downfall, because pretty much I believe all Souls-like games, minus maybe Sekiro, are all about the downfall of a civilization, and you're there at the end of the world, whether it's Dark Souls, whether it's Bloodborne, whether it's now Elden Ring. They're all about the collapse of some kind of civilization. And you're there, the tarnished, the last tarnished standing, basically. Now, it's this possibility of a movie or a TV series has already been hinted at by Miyazaki. He himself had revealed recently that he would be open to an adaptation of the studio's 25 million selling 2022 action role-playing game, but only if a very strong partner were to come into play. Now the question is such a partner available? I don't know. I really don't know. Now me and Joe and Franco were discussing this this week, and I came up with the name of David Lowery.
He would be a great choice.
Now, I came up with the name of David Lowery specifically because of this movie,
Green Knight.
which I loved, The Green Knight, which I think takes a fascinating approach into the whole myth of the legend of King Arthur and the Prince Gawain. And I think he's the perfect choice. He's a great director, great visuals, great, everything. The cinematography, his direction is excellent. Joe mentioned, I don't know if he can do the action. I think he has the talent for it. But I don't know. We're still obviously early days for this. Before you get into it, Jan,
Yeah.
Yella said that George R. R. Martin is the literal definition of procrastination. He will do anything but finish the next Game of Thrones book. Indeed, Yella.
No.
I've given up on the next Game of Thrones book, by the way. I've completely given up. I have no hope it's coming out. What do you think about this, Jan?
My vote, before I get to my thoughts on it, on the Elden Ring movie or TV show, I would go with a very bold choice and say Robert Eggers. I would be a choice of directing because of what he did in The Northman. I was very fan. I was after what he did in The Northman. I think he would do a decent job in Elden Ring. But David Lowery is it's a unique choice because of the Green Knight. The Green Knight, what I was so impressed about was its visual metaphors, how it presented its story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. So he would be an interesting choice for David Lowery. But yeah, to give my thoughts on the Elden Ring movie, for me, I think this would work more as a TV show, if I'm being honest, because Elden Ring, it's such a massive universe, and it's such a long game as well. And I can't really see how they're going to cram everything into a movie. The movie has to be like about 2.5 hours, maybe even close to 3 hours, if you want to make like a feature length movie. But I mean, that's just my opinion. Because I think many people would prefer a movie rather than a TV show. But I think a TV show would make the pacing and the development of the characters more smoother. If I'm being correct, even if they want to do like a storyline based on the newest DLC, Shadow of the Earth 3, I think a TV show would work better than a movie. Still, if they do a movie, I would be on board and I would still watch it. But I think when it comes to video game adaptations, they haven't been the best. I mean, very, very few of them have succeeded in flying colors. But I mean, we speak of the Mediterrane Film Festival. Chad Stahelski is doing a Ghost of Tsushima movie. And I've heard him say that he would be doing it either as a feature-length film, or he was going to split into 2 parts. So I think when it comes to these type of video game adaptations, I would first see who is directing it, and then I will go from there. Because if like someone like, for example, David Lowery or Robert Eggers or even like Chad Stahelski directs a movie like Elden Ring or let's say Ghost of Tsushima, I would be on board, and I would be curious to see what direction they will take, basically. But with Elden Ring, I think a TV show works more than a movie. I think you're the complete opposite, Andrea, than what I said. I think with this one.
No, I agree actually. I think Elden Ring would translate much better to a TV series. Like you said, it's a long game. I think it takes you around 100 hours definitely to finish it. It's also
if you want to complete everything, yes.
Yes, if you want to complete everything. The world is incredibly massive. You're like 50 hours in, and you're like, okay, so now I need to go there. And then you take this lift down, and suddenly you have a whole new 30-hour area that you explore. And you're like, holy shit. And everything looks beautiful. Everything feels incredible, like visually. It's not just because the graphics themselves are okay, good. I wouldn't say they're the most amazing, but the visual, the design of everything feels so just handmade. Looking at like Elden Ring and then comparing it to other games I've played, like the concepts behind the world, the whole world building of it all, the creature design, the boss design, everything feels so creative, feels so fresh, so new. It's just an incredible video game, a really incredible video game. I played very few video games like it.
I think it goes from every game from software basically, because this is a company that they don't rely on microtransactions, and they just focus on making the game as breathtaking and as addictive and as possible as this, so that the gamer can enjoy himself or herself playing the game. And it's no secret that they are delivering one outstanding game after another. I mean, and even the DLC itself, Shadow of the Earth, it's considered like the best DLC in ages. 10 out of 10 scores from IGN and GameSpot and other popular video game publication websites. these guys know what they're doing. I mean, let's face it. As hard as the games are, the gameplay, the visuals. I mean, we're seeing it here now. It's breathtaking stuff. I mean, some of the character designs. Very, very few people and video game companies manage to pull this off perfectly, in my opinion.
They're going to need a big budget, though. They're
No,
gonna need a massive budget.
absolutely.
So it's either Amazon funding this, or I don't know. I don't know where they get the budget for.
Even
for
Apple,
Elden Ring.
Apple TV Plus, I think.
Or
I'm
Apple
not
TV,
sure.
or Apple TV.
I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna add a lot of CGI as well. I think I won't be
And
surprised if they add CGI.
Joe had mentioned the possibility of maybe turning into an anime, which I think I personally think that would translate the best into an anime. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know how you can do Elden Ring action in a series or a movie. Me personally, like live action, I really struggle to see that happening. I think with an anime is perfectly set for something like that.
And speaking of anime, I mean, they're doing a Lord of the Rings movie on Netflix.
Yes.
It will release in December. It's going to be anime, so why not Elden Ring? I mean, I'm not like the #1 fan of this choice, but I think the approach that it would take, it would be a very, very interesting one to see. So that I can't rule that one out either as well. Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm
Yeah.
very excited for this though.
Yes.
Looking
okay.
forward to it. The Movie Man just finished interview with the Vampires second season yesterday and just started Supercell on Netflix. Sorry to start a new RPG, the Knights of the Old Republic game and Jade Empire. I love Knights of the Old Republic. The Movie Man. It's an incredible RPG game. Grew up on that shit.
Waiting for that. Waiting for the remake.
Yep. I'd play the shit out of that again. So that's Elden Ring. By the way, on the whole topic of series, I mean, there's a reason why we've had Fallout, which was great. The Last of Us, which was, I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan, but a lot of people loved The Last of Us.
Loved it. I loved it.
They worked because they were series and they had time to develop the characters and the story. Again, I don't think this works as a movie. I really don't think this works as a
Same
movie.
here.
Now, I'm just going to go through this really quickly and fly through this. Unfortunately, the past week has not been the best for streamers. And here we talk about movies and series and video games. So I think it's still very relevant to the show. I'm just going to go through this really quickly. Now, I was a big fan I started becoming a fan of his in around 2018, I believe, 2018, 2019, when PUBG started to become a real big deal. I was playing PUBG, of course, and watching DrDisrespect. Unfortunately, long story short, DrDisrespect was banned from Twitch in 2020, around about, I believe, COVID time, and no one knew what the hell was going on with DrDisrespect. Why the hell was he banned, right? He returned a few months later to YouTube and streamed on YouTube successfully for a few years. But news came out a few days ago that apparently in 2017, the same year when DrDisrespect had cheated on his wife at TwitchCon, DrDisrespect had sent a whisper on Twitch to an underage person, to a minor on Twitch. DrDisrespect, according to reports, knew that this was a minor, kept on messaging nonetheless. Some of the messages were of sexual nature, basically, were sexual in their content. It's not good to hear, right? It's not. I mean, this is horrific to hear from someone like myself. I've been watching DrDisrespect for years, playing his music. I love his songs. I love the whole persona he built of DrDisrespect. It's very upsetting. It's very, very, very upsetting. And Slasher, who is a games journalist, reported recently that Twitch did report this to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. So there's that and some other news, but I just wanted to mention this. This is incredibly unfortunate. Jan, you told me you had heard of DrDisrespect.
Yes, haven't read a lot about the news, but yeah, I mean, hearing the scandal, I mean, it's very, very unfortunate to hear about it. Yeah, I mean, that's all I really can say about this, because haven't really had the time to really read what was exactly happening about this. But yeah, very, very unfortunate of what's happening with this one. I'm afraid. Yeah,
And
not really much to add about that one.
yeah, and to continue on the bad news, another big streamer, someone who I also used to watch almost religiously, especially during COVID, especially during COVID, like Warzone was a lifesaver during COVID, and one of the big reasons why I loved Warzone so much was because of Nickmercs and DrDisrespect, and unfortunately Nickmercs in the past year or so has just fallen into this like crazy right-wing pit of screaming hate towards transgender people, which is very unfortunate. And recently he was caught using a transphobic slur on stream, uttering the T word, which was quickly followed up with a decisive but temporary ban by Twitch. He fired back on social media, stressing that next time he'll use mental health disorder, which is, again, very unfortunate. A few months ago, Nickmercs was actually had his custom skin removed from Call of Duty, again, because of derogatory comments towards transgender people. Again, incredibly unfortunate. And this comes literally days after the whole DrDisrespect scandal. Again, Jesus, man, just guys. Jan, your mic.
Yeah.
So yeah, very unfortunate news. Very unfortunate news here to see from a guy who I watched religiously during COVID. So very unfortunate news indeed. So that's it with regard to the news. Unfortunately, we had to end the news there on a very negative tone, considering the very fun news we had to talk about. Harry Potter, Elden Ring, always fun to talk about. That kind of stuff. Unfortunately, sometimes we also have to talk about the negative stuff as well. Moving on now, viewers and listeners, hope you're enjoying the podcast. Let us know in the comment section below your thoughts about the possibility of a Harry Potter TV series, your thoughts about the possibility of an Elden Ring series or movie. Have you been playing Elden Ring and the Elden Ring DLC? How many times has that bloody lion killed you? Let us know in the comment section below. And to move on now to the reviews, like I said, we've got, 4 reviews. We've got A Quiet Place Day 1. We've got Kinds of Kindness. We've got The Boy and the Heron and Inside Out 2. I believe, since Jan is having some trouble right now, I will start off with A Quiet Place Day 1. Let me bring that on the screen. I won't bring up the Letterboxd page because it will spoil my thoughts on the movie. So, A Quiet Place Day 1. So I got to watch this on Sunday. Went to watch this on Sunday with my workmates and with Tristian. I was actually, just to preface this, I was actually shocked by how packed the cinema was. Like, absolutely packed. Really impressive. Really impressed to see so many people at the cinema. And good stuff. Really good stuff as well. I love when I see the cinemas packed. Because cinemas packed means more movies, basically. And I want more movies. So, Quiet Place Day 1. I watched the first A Quiet Place, the John Krasinski one with Emily Blunt. And I really enjoyed it. I think it was one of the best movies of 2018. Unfortunately, for some reason, COVID was the main reason, right? But other reasons as well, I never got around to watching the second A Quiet Place movie. I have to remedy that as soon as possible. But still, I was very excited to check out the new A Quiet Place, which is a prequel to the first 2 A Quiet Place movies. So that's why it's called, in fact, A Quiet Place Day 1. because it does, in fact, portray day one for like 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes before it moves on to day two and day three, basically. And that will be one of my main criticisms for this movie. But let's set off with the movie. So, Quiet Place, day one. Here, how it all began. As New York City is invaded by alien creatures who hunt by sound, a woman named Sammy fights to survive. This is starring Lupita Nyong'o as a woman suffering from a terminal illness. I'm not sure if it's ever specified that it's cancer, but obviously everyone assumed it was cancer. And as you can tell from the plot summary, Quiet Place A1 gives us basically the opening of this extraterrestrial invasion of New York. Now, A Quiet Place is basically always been a very smart concept. The whole idea of these creatures, these extraterrestrial creatures which can hunt with sound. I've always been fascinated by this whole concept. I think the whole idea of having to remain perfectly silent adds to some incredible tension. And this movie takes full advantage of that. I think the really silent moments are some of the best moments. Heron,
Terribly sorry, Andrea. My mic decided to not work all of a sudden. And I'm just going to have to see this out without music, basically. Sorry about that.
No worries, John. So the whole idea of having to remain silent just to survive is a fantastic one. Adds to great tension. Really, really great concept. Of course, we've already seen this for two movies. I've already seen it for one movie. Others have seen it for two. But like I said, when A Quiet Place came out in 2018, it was shocking. Wow, this is fresh. This is new. This is really smart. And for a movie named A Quiet Place, it actually has some very, very loud moments when the creatures are hunting. The director Michael Sarnowski takes full advantage of the Dolby Digital sound, for those loud thumping sounds of those extraterrestrial creatures hunting in packs for humans. And they are terrifying, really, really terrifying. So those bursts of noise are really, really, really terrifying. The 2018 movie also had some impeccable performances. Again, John Krasinski, Emily Blunt are fantastic actors. And A Quiet Place Day One can also take advantage of that fact. We've got Lupita Nyong'o with a fantastic performance. Her eyes do a lot of heavy lifting here, and Lupita Nyong'o has very expressive eyes. So I think perfect casting in that case. Joseph Quinn is also surprisingly very good as well. Very, very empathetic role he has here. He's more of a plot device for Lupita Nyong'o's character more than anything, but I think he pulls it off very well as well. He's, as we've seen him in Stranger Things and other stuff, very empathetic, very capable in portraying an empathetic character, right? And to praise Sarnowski's work here and Krasinski's work here, it's clear they came into this movie with a concept, right? Then the concept was not to focus excessively on the invasion, but to focus on Nyong'o's character, Lupita Nyong'o's character. And she gets some really, really, really good moments with Joseph Quinn's character. And there's a really touching relationship that develops between the two. Now, that's also, however, unfortunately, my issue with this. And probably that is some of a personal issue as well of mine. And it's the usual issue of expectations. I came into this, especially looking at the trailer, looking at the poster, looking at, and even just the title, Quiet Place Day One. I went into this expecting day one, actual day one, where we would get like an hour of day one action, which is not the case. We get like 10 minutes of day one action, and then other stuff happens, right? And the focus turns mostly to Lupita Nyong'o's character and her arc in this film. That's the main focus, which is respectable. And in a world where, we cry for directors and screenwriters to focus on characters and to build to bring emotions to their films and not just focus on the visuals. I feel a bit hypocritical in saying this, but I did expect a bit more, of that tense moments that we come to expect from A Quiet Place. The opening was great, don't get me wrong. The opening 20 minutes were fantastic, and I think the development of the characters of Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn were also good. Apart from that, however, I felt the film was a little slow at times. The concept became a little dry, and they did very little new, very little fresh with the third movie of this franchise now. Because now we're at movie 3. So you expect something new, maybe bring something new, bring new creatures into the picture, maybe bring some new idea, a new way in which you can defeat them. There's nothing new here. It's old stuff we've seen being retread again, which is ultimately why I felt a little disappointed by this. For many people, this might actually be the first A Quiet Place movie, and I'm sure you're going to love this if it's the first one. If you've watched 2 already, 1 and 2, you might be a little, I've seen all of this before. But, so overall, I'd say some other disappointments I had was how dark some of the scenes were. Again, I understand you need to hide the CGI, so that's the reason why, but a bit too dark at times. And I would have appreciated more focus on like the whole world collapsing, right? And some more like, involved seeing the military in action. How did the military respond to this? We got to see little to nothing of that. The ending is, at first I was like, that was really anticlimactic, but thinking about the ending, the whole concept is focused around Lupita Nyong'o's character, and the ending is focused around the arc for her character. So I understand the ending, and I think the ending is fine. It does its job. Still, it's not going to have you off your seats like, whoa, oh my God, and clapping and shouting, right? It's more tame, it's more focused around the character. My rating for this was a 3 out of 5. I think technically it's a well-done movie, very watchable. I would actually recommend checking this one first and then watching the other Quiet Place movies. I haven't watched the second one. I'll remedy that very soon. But do I recommend this? I think you can wait for this on streaming. I don't think you need to go watch this in the cinema. Although, to be fair, the sound design, it's fun to watch this in the cinema because of the sound design. And noticing everyone being really quiet with their popcorn when one of those really quiet moments come. So that's my review for A Quiet Place A1. Yes, Jan.
Andrea, are you hearing me first of all?
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry about that, guys. First of all, because my microphone, for some reason, it just gave up completely. I just had to reset everything. But just to add on A Quiet Place, Andrea, if you haven't watched part 2, I'm curious to see what you're going to think about the opening scene of that movie.
Okay. No, I haven't watched the second one.
I'm curious to see because it has. I'll let you know after you've seen the film. But Quiet Place Day 1. I'm planning to see it this weekend. Obviously, very, very much looking forward to it. I've seen I love the first 2 films, especially the first one. And the fact is, this will be the first Quiet Place movie that I will be watching at the cinema. So, these movies are designed to be watched in the cinema. So, very much looking forward to it. At the same time, 3 out of 5, it's a bit disappointing. I mean, considering, I was expecting maybe like a 4.5 for a movie like this, but I mean, everyone's opinions at the end of the day. So
Franco liked it much more than I did, by the way, and so
I'm not sure. I mean, I'll see it this weekend, and then I'll let my thoughts about. I'll give my thoughts on that after I've seen it. Hopefully this weekend.
Definitely.
Yes.
Perhaps the mic went out in anticipation of the A Quiet Place Day 1 segment.
Good one.
Movie
good
man
one. Good
with
one.
the dad
That's
jokes.
Jan,
do you want to get into your thoughts on? We can do Inside Out too.
Yes.
We'll do The Boy and the Heron, and then end off with Kinds of Kindness.
Yes. So, I can start. Okay. So, all right. So, Inside Out 2. I don't think you've watched it, Andrea, right?
I have not. I wanted to watch it this weekend.
Want to watch it? No. I mean,
it was packed.
It's not just
sold out.
It's not just Embassy, Eden Cinemas as well. I mean, Inside Out, sellout screenings with every show basically, especially since this weekend was a public holiday as well on Saturday. So many people went to see Inside Out 2. So Inside Out 2 is the sequel to Inside Out that came out in 2015. Massive successful film. The first Inside Out was one of the best in recent memory for Pixar. And this basically is a continuation of the first film. Basically, Riley is now all grown up, into her teen years now, and all your emotions from the first film return: joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. All make a return. However, new emotions get themselves into the fray. Most notably, we have anxiety, an orange emotion, resembling, of course, anxiety. You've got envy, played by Ayo Edebiri, by the way, from The Bear. She plays the role. Anxiety, she's played by Maya Hawke. You got embarrassment, a big sized bear. We were seeing it over there, and then we've got this guy named Ennui, means boredom in French, basically. Ennui means boredom in French, yeah, basically. But basically, if you've watched the first Inside Out, you know exactly what you're expecting with this one. It's basically a continuation of the first film. It follows Riley's story, and really, that's all you need to know basically about Inside Out 2. I mean, all they had to do really was just progress the story further, and continue basically on what the events of the first film told. Overall, it's a really good movie. However, a part of me, I wasn't really blown away by this one. Unlike two of my friends who really loved the film. I don't think I would consider this one of Pixar's heavy hitters. But there's a lot to love about this film. It's a very fast-paced film. I've said this obviously with two of my friends who are with me. This movie, you don't need an intermission for a movie like this. And for me, get an intermission for like a 2.5 hour or a 3 hour movie. A movie like this movie is only 95 minutes long. It moves along at breakneck speed. Lots of the characters are like talking rapidly, like some person's talking, and then the next, and then another person pops in and talking. Things move by really fast, and there are rarely any moments. There are very few moments where the movie takes a bit of a space to treat itself a bit. So, and even just, I mean, the premise of the film, we've seen it already in the first. We see it already in the first film. So it doesn't do anything original. All this movie does is just basically continue on what the first movie did. And even some of the jokes, I mean, the humor, it came mostly not from the main cast. It came mostly from a really minor character. His name is Pouchy, and he basically is taking the piss on Dora the Explorer. Basically, he resembles like the backpack, and he was basically having the most. He was like delivering the most laughs throughout the entire film. Like from the main cast, didn't go a lot of laughs from the main cast, but I mean the voice cast in general, it's great. I mean everyone does a solid job. I mean from the new cast, I would say Maya Hawke is a standout here, and even Ayo Edebiri, they take the most out of their roles. The animation for Pixar standards, it's great. I mean the visuals are popping out everywhere. When it comes to animation, Pixar always deliver in that regard. But yeah, just to wrap up on my thoughts on Inside Out 2, it's good. It's very well made. The story, this movie, what it does, it's never boring. Not 1 second. It's very fast paced, and there isn't a second where the movie slows down or it's dull in any means. It's engaging throughout the entire thing, and even especially towards the end. Things get really personal. Even with Pixar, we've seen in the past that they go for the first during some scenes, they go for the emotional part. We've had in Toy Story 3, for example, in Toy Story trilogy, Monsters Inc. We've had a lot in Up, the opening scene in Up. It's one such scene. that pulls the heartstrings out of the audience as well. And this one has one towards the end, but at the same time, this is also one of the most mature Pixar films to date. I mean, even the first Inside Out, to be fair, it's very mature, but this one, I mean, since Riley is now in her teenage years, going into puberty, Pixar have really going into the mature route here. And even the audience that was watching it Inside Out too, there were more adults than kids. And this is rated U also. So I was quite surprised by that. But yeah, Inside Out 2 would rate it. This is a very strong 7.5, merging to an 8 out of 10, maybe like a 3.5 or a 4-star. It's a very well-made film. It's, if I would rank it in the Pixar films, it would be somewhere in the middle. I would say I wouldn't rank it as one of the at the very best that Pixar has to offer. I mean, it's doing superb at the box office. I mean, it has just grossed $1 billion worldwide, which is massive, which is incredible. I mean, almost as Dune Part 2. But I liked it. I enjoyed watching it, but again, not one of Pixar's all-time greats. It would probably be like a 7.5 out of 10, merging maybe to an 8. Maybe I would watch it a second time in the future, but I would give it an 8. Lots to like here, but yeah, that's pretty much it on Inside Out 2. Don't expect anything groundbreaking. That's all I have to say with this one, because the premise has already been done in the first film.
All right, Jan. Some comments on Quiet Place Day 1. Keith said that I actually enjoyed the quieter moments for A Quiet Place Day 1 rather than the action set pieces. The movie has similar vibes to another horror movie, Arcadian, which came out this year. Franco watched Arcadian. Keith, I haven't watched Arcadian, so I can't comment about that. And the Movie Man, for what it's worth, I think your expectations as well as mine were set because of the way the trailer was created. Exactly. Made it seem as if the dynamics of that first day would be prevalent, but it wasn't. Indeed. Exactly my thoughts, The Movie Man. Exactly my thoughts. All right, Jan, so that is Inside Out 2. Shall we get really quickly into The Boy and the Heron? Because I still haven't written my thoughts on the film. So my thoughts are
same here.
Scattered about The Boy and the Heron.
The Heron. Yes,
but
same here, because I
short. Yeah.
No. I have to watch it. I still need to see it for a second time before I give my full thoughts on it, because this is a film you should watch at least twice. I'll start. I'll let you start with your thoughts first, then I'll give my thoughts a bit later on about this one. Yeah.
So The Boy and the Heron, in the wake of his mother's death and his father's remarriage, a headstrong boy named Mahito ventures into a dreamlike world shared by both the living and the dead. As a massive Miyazaki and Ghibli fan, I've been looking forward to this film for what feels like months and months and months now, since basically it was announced. Like you, Jan, I used to watch these always. Like, I never watched one Ghibli in English, basically. But
I'm the opposite.
Really? You watch them in English?
I watch them in it. No, this is a funny thing, actually. When it comes to anime, I always watch the Japanese dub, the original Japanese version. But with Studio Ghibli, for some reason, I always go for the English dubs. This one I watched the Japanese dub because the version I couldn't find it anywhere. But for Studio Ghibli, for some reason, I always go with the English versions, because the voice casting and even the talent they have, the cast, they do a great job with the English dub. You know, it's one of the best ones, if I'm being honest. I would recommend watching the English dubs of the Studio Ghibli films. Definitely. Yeah,
I watched this with the English dubs again because of the amazing cast. The voice cast were incredible. So just to preface how I watched The Boy and the Heron. Now to get into my thoughts, I think the opening scene where we see the town on fire was incredibly powerful. And it perfectly set the tone of this film that, listen, this is not a movie for kids. This is an incredibly mature story about loss, about very, very heavy themes. Very, very, very heavy themes. Anyways, like I said, my thoughts are still scattered here and there, and I feel like my review will be, I'll better review it next week. But what I can say is that I had an incredible time watching it. It's not a fun movie per se, again, because of how heavy the themes are in it, right? Visually, I think this is some of the most creative stuff from Miyazaki yet.
And this.
The design of certain settings, certain characters is quirky, is fascinating, really creative stuff. It's going to make you sit and think, right? As you can tell from my review, it's going to make you sit down and think very profound thoughts. It's going to make you think about loss, about grief. You know, it's all about, does our character let go of a particular other character or not? It's really heavy stuff, really heavy stuff. I, again, still have a lot of scattered thoughts because I finished watching it not too long ago as well. What I can say is I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. I think I need to watch it again, like you, Jan, to give my thoughts better, and probably I'll review it again next week. I really don't have a rating for it either. I'm not sure about a rating either, but I'm probably somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5, probably for myself. Probably more on a 4. Jan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm like you, Andrea. I mean, I've literally watched The Boy and the Heron like around an hour before we started this episode, basically. So this movie is still fresh in my mind. Again, I have to see it again because when you have a Hayao Miyazaki film or a Studio Ghibli film, these films, you need multiple viewings to really some of their films, not all of their films, but some of their films, you need to be fully, your mind needs to be fully on board when watching one of his movies, because you get incredibly transported to this universe. But long story short, I love this movie. I mean, I've been waiting for this film since it was announced, and it took ages to arrive in mod, and finally it has arrived. And this guy, Hayao Miyazaki has done it again. This guy doesn't miss every single one of his movies. And this is, as you said before, Andrea, this movie is not for kids. It is probably the most mature Studio Ghibli film since probably Princess Mononoke, if I'm being honest. I think Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, and even The Wind Rises are probably some of his most mature films. And speaking of Hayao Miyazaki, this is even more personal than The Wind Rises, because during the opening scene, that's very reminiscent to how Miyazaki grew up. He grew up during the Second World War, and so this was really, really personal stuff. I was fully immersed with this entire thing. I mean, the animation, I'm running out of words to describe the animation when it comes to Studio Ghibli. The Studio Ghibli's animation is the best in the entire industry, in my opinion. What they do with the cell animation, I have no idea how they pull it off. It's jaw-dropping. In this day and age, we see so many animated films that rely on CGI, and when we see a company like Studio Ghibli who spend hours and hours and hours on end with their pencils, with their colors, just making every single design count, whether it's a location or a character or the use of colors, it's breathtaking stuff. And I really have no idea how these guys pull it off. By the way, Andrea, if you really want to watch a really good Studio Ghibli documentary, watch The Kingdoms of Dreams and Madness. It's basically about the production of The Wind Rises, and the last few films of Studio Ghibli before they supposedly were going to be closed down, basically. So really encourage everyone to check out the documentary. But back with The Boy and the Heron, now I've watched the Japanese dub, and I obviously still need to watch the English dub of the film. But with this one, it's a lot. It's very complex. It's very mature. Again, my thoughts right now, they're very scattered at the moment. So I have to see it for a second time to really get my full thoughts on it. But even just on my first viewing, I love this movie, man. I mean, again, it's another home run from Ghibli. I was transfixed for the entire thing because even just the storytelling in itself, how it just slowly evolves into this big scenario of a tale. Even how this movie starts, it's outstanding. Hayao Miyazaki, if this is really his last film, it would be a big shame.
Is
Because
it? Is it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I really hope not, because this is why I love Studio Ghibli. This is why I prefer them more than Disney, to be honest, because they have Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki in particular. They have this ability that they transport you from the first frame. You are immersed in this universe, and even with and especially comes with their animation. And we speak about their animation. They make food delicious, and it's not just with the food, but even just with the words they design, the use of colors, the scenery, the aesthetic of the film. It's jaw dropping, and this movie, some of the animation is insane. It actually is insane, and it fully deserves that Best Animated Oscar, because this movie won Best Animated Film at the last Oscars, and it's fully deserved. And yeah, very, very impressed. I mean, this for me, even on first viewing, it's a 4.5. I mean, I need to see it again to give my full thoughts on it. But I loved it. I really, really love this movie. Look, listen, I've waited months for it, but the wait was certainly worth it. Amazing film once again from Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli. The guy and the company just don't miss. They never miss.
So the movie man asked us, what are your all's favorite and or underrated Studio Ghibli films? Mine is Princess Mononoke, but Kiki's Delivery Service is the one that introduced me to Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli. Very underrated. What's yours, Jan?
Favorite, it's a toss between Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away. If I would choose one of them, it would probably be Spirited Away. I think that would be. It's very close between the two. Underrated one. This might be a bit of a bold choice. The Cat Returns. I actually think it's a very underrated Ghibli film. They have a lot of good ones. Whisper of the Heart is another one. A criminally overlooked film, in my opinion. I would put that top 5, maybe, if not top 5, top 10, definitely. But favorite, Spirited Away. Underrated, a toss between The Cat Returns and Whisper of the Heart. And they happen to be also in the same universe, those two.
I would... I feel like I have the discussion every few months on the podcast.
Yeah.
If I had to talk about most impactful Studio Ghibli, I would. I have to say Grave of the Fireflies. Grave of the Fireflies is probably the most impactful one. Like on me personally, watching it, Grave of the Fireflies, just never gonna watch it again. But holy shit!
Grave of the Fireflies is a film you should never watch it repeatedly because of how sad the movie is. But it's one of the most powerful movies I've ever seen. A movie, it's a massive task for a movie to make me cry, but that was very close to making me cry. I mean, especially towards the end. It's a devastating movie, A Grave of the Fireflies, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time for a reason. But I just can't see myself watching that movie repeatedly because of how emotional and sad the movie is, especially the last few minutes. It's devastating stuff.
Indeed. And best. Oh, they're all so good. So hard to say best. I guess. I mean, for me personally, best would be a toss-up between Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away. I think.
Howl's Moving Castle, not so much. It's in my top 10. The worst is Here We Can Do It. I have a worst film. It's Here We Can Do It. That movie, fuck that movie. It sucks. It's terrible.
Shall we move on to the last review?
Yes.
We've got Kinds of Kindness, which we also got to see at
the Mediterrane
Film Festival. I wish Bruce was here as well for the podcast, because Bruce.
He didn't have great things to say about that.
Oh boy, he had some thoughts about it.
Yes.
But yes, Kinds of Kindness. So to introduce the film, although I think it's not very easy to introduce Kinds of Kindness, Let me bring it up on IMDb because I don't want to spoil my thoughts on the movie on my Letterboxd. Right, Kinds of Kindness. There we go. So, a man seeks to break free from his predetermined path. A cop questions his wife's demeanor after her return from a supposed drowning. And a woman searches for an extraordinary individual prophesied to become a renowned spiritual guide. So as you can tell, Kinds of Kindness takes the form of like a triptych, would be described as a triptych fable. Basically, you've got 3 different fables told seemingly in the same world with some very small links, whether it's thematic links. Obviously, you've got the same actors appearing in different roles, but the one constant between all 3 shorts is RMF. RMF is there in the first movie, in the second movie, and in the third movie. And also, apparently, Jan, in a post-credits, in a mid-credit scene, where he's seen eating a burger.
Yes.
And so RMF is the link between the 3. Now, going into this, Jan, I don't know about you. Well, you seem to know a bit more about it than myself, but I literally knew nothing. I didn't even know it was an anthology film before the movie started.
That's the only thing. I knew about walking into the movie. Just it was going to be an anthology film, and that's pretty much it. Just watch the trailer as well. But the only thing I knew about walking into this movie was that it was going to be it was going to be an anthology movie, and that's pretty much it. I thought it was going to be five films, 5 stories, not 3. But
right.
Nevertheless, that's the only thing I knew before walking into this one. Yeah.
You must have been panicking, man, after the first one took like an hour.
Yes. No, to be fair, I was like, holy shit, man. I mean, how long is this going? How long is this going? But then,
in the morning.
But then when it was like halfway through the second story, I just popped into my plot synopsis very quickly. I saw 2 stories. I was like, phew.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now Lanthimos has been on a well, his career path has been fascinating to say the least. I would say his last 2 movies were probably his 2 most normal Lanthimos films, 2 most mainstream, as far as you can use like normal and mainstream with Lanthimos. I'm obviously talking about The Favorite and Poor Things. With Kinds of Kindness, there's nothing normal and nothing mainstream about Kinds of Kindness. He's gone, again, the direction he went with The Lobster and with Dogtooth and with Killers of Sacred Deer. He's gone that direction. And you can tell he's working with what's his name? Eftimis Philippou was the writer also on The Lobster, Killers of Sacred Deer.
And Dogtooth as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And you can tell how important Philippou is as a writer in the whole scheme of things, because this movie feels like it comes from the world of The Lobster and Killing of Sacred Deer and Dogtooth. It very much feels very similar to that brand of Lanthimos rather than the Favorite and Poor Things brand of Lanthimos. He's also not using the fisheye lens here in this anthology. He's using a more, just a normal lens. I don't really get into the technicalities too much. Franco does that usually on this podcast.
Lots of close-ups.
Yes. Lots of close-ups. Some wide shots as well. Quite a good use of wide shots as well.
I to be honest with the wide fisheye lenses, I was barely seeing any wide lenses here in this film. Maybe just hidden ones, but
none of the fisheye lens thing. But there were, because one of the things I like the most, to get into my thoughts, and then I'll ask you about your thoughts on the first one. In the first short named The Death of RMF, which was my personal favorite. One of the best things I thought about that was the use of architecture as a storytelling device. I think the use of architecture, seeing the office in which Willem Dafoe's character stayed, the houses where, again, Willem Dafoe's character lived and where Jesse Plemons' character lived. The use of architecture, I think, was essential in the first short. I think it was very, very good and very well shot. I mean, Lanthimos, we've seen him again and again. Great. Fantastic director. Visually, he does some really impressive stuff, and that is we can fully see that here in Kinds of Kindness as well. I thought the dynamic between Plemons and Willem Dafoe in the death of RMF was great, really well done. The tension that is developed by the screenplay, excellent stuff. I really enjoyed the first one. I think by far my favorite. Well, not by far, because there's a second one as well, but I enjoyed it a lot. What do you think, Jan, about the first one?
Honestly, I was just gonna give my full thoughts on the whole movie in general, because when it comes for a movie like this, I just don't wish to spoil every single 3 stories. I have like a personal favorite of the stories, but with the first story, I agree with you, Andre. I mean, it was probably I'm really not sure which story was my least favorite was the third one.
Yes,
my least favorite was the third one because it just was getting way too long towards the end, and I think Yorgos was a bit way too ambitious on that story. But with regards to my favorite, the first one was great. I mean, the writing in that story, the dynamic between Willem Dafoe and Jesse Plemons, by the way, what a performance in all 3 stories, right? In all 3 stories, not just in this one. I will get it later on. But the dynamic between the 2 actors is brilliant, and even I just love Yorgos' dialogue. He gets the characters speaking in a robotic manner, and he does it on purpose. And many people won't get into his dialogue, but for me, he makes it so fascinating. And there are very few directors who manage to what's the word? They manage to pull off what seems to be like awful dialogue with their delivery and make it exciting. Yeah, I think my favorite, the second one is the stuff they go for with the second story is great. I don't know about you, Andre. I don't know about this one, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure which story was my personal favorite. I'll let you finish your thoughts on that first, and then I'll get my full thoughts on the movie basically.
Okay, so the second one was RMF is Flying. Still had a very, very good time with it. Like I said, I think it's almost as good as the first one. I know a lot of people prefer the second one more than the first one. Basically prefer RMF is Flying more than the death of RMF. I think I enjoyed this just a little bit less. Again, the whole team, so as I don't spoil anything as much as possible, the whole team of kind of like obsession and the toxicity in relationships, which by the way is what I think links all 3 of them together, which is this concept of toxicity. And, it's in the title, kinds of kindness, right? But
devotion.
I don't think Lanthimos really understands the meaning of the word kindness, because it's a weird kind of kindness, right? It's a weird kind of kindness. It's more kindness in the form of very toxic behavior. And it's seen very much in the second one, right? Very much in the second one. There are a lot of small little details about the second one that I really liked, in the writing, in the way Madonna Emma Stone's character was acting, what she was doing. Again, it's very hard to talk about it without spoiling anything. But what she was doing, what she was portraying, what Jesse Plemons was seeing, right? And is it real? Is it not? Is this a narrator we can trust? Is this an untrustworthy narrator? The ending, again, what was going on in the ending? Did it really happen? Right? There are a lot of big question marks. And I think the screenplay does a very good job in portraying all of this. And the visuals, again, very good stuff. And like we both said on the Jesse Plemons, Willem Dafoe on the first one, I think Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone is a match made in heaven, absolute match made in heaven, and just blew me away. So and just to conclude, Melo, with the third one, so then Jan, you can conclude with your thoughts about the last 2. RMF Eats a Sandwich, again, could be a personal thing where I was tired. After, it's 2 hours, 40 minutes. We had the masterclass in the morning.
Yes.
Had been out all day. So we had a lot of stuff going on. And I went to see my parents. And so I didn't have any time to rest all day. And the movie basically ended at what, half past 12?
Quarter past midnight, I think it ended.
Quarter past midnight? Yeah, quarter past midnight.
It's a long one.
2 hours, 45 minutes. So it could be because I was tired, but I did feel like it did meander a lot. It meandered quite a bit. Lots of themes were tackled here. lots of characters. The plots like deviated. You had several different plots going on. I think he swung for a bit too much this final scene. But to go back to the final film, RMF Eats a Sandwich, was the one that felt most scattered. Was the one where I felt like Lanthimos maybe had tried to bite too much, bit too much to chew. And yeah, I didn't hate it, didn't love it. I don't know if I liked it either. I think maybe I'm in between neutral to liked it. So I'd say overall ratings for all three, and I'll let you, Jan, conclude then.
Yeah, no problem.
A 4 for the first one, a 4 for Death of RMF, 3.5 for RMF is Flying, and a 3 for RMF Eats a Sandwich. Possibly even a 2.5 for RMF Eats a Sandwich. 2.5 or 3, I'd say a 3 for RMF Eats a Sandwich. Jan?
To quote Drake, Yorgos is in sicko mode with this movie from all three films, because I think it's best to start my thoughts on Kinds of Kindness is to say that if you've never watched a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, or if you don't like his movies, you're gonna hate this movie straight away. You're gonna hate this movie. This is from start to finish a Yorgos Lanthimos movie. It is, which means it's absolutely absurd. It's batshit crazy. The dialogue, it's robotic, as I mentioned previously, and the humor, it's very dry and it's very dark in all three stories presented. And also, if you love Poor Things and The Favourite, you're gonna be a bit disappointed, because this is more towards his early bleak work, like Dogtooth. This is more like towards Dogtooth and The Cave of Sacred Deer and The Lobster. But at the same time, I can't really compare this film to his other work, because it's its own thing. And this is his biggest movie to date. You basically have 3 short stories, and it's almost 3 hours long. And what I want to say is this movie, don't watch this movie when you're like extremely tired or you have zero energy in your body, because this movie's a lot. It's a lot. There's some nasty stuff going on. And a relative theme going on with this film is portraying several humanistic themes: toxicity, devotion towards one another, and also the obsession and the crazy lengths one will go to devour someone, whether as an individual or as a group as well.
I see what you did there.
Sorry?
I see what you did there.
Okay. Basically something like that. So, this movie is not a crowd pleaser. I mean, during the screening, there were people who fell asleep, and there were some people who walked out. I mean, the couple right in front of me, they walked out after the first story, which I expected it. Listen, Yorgos Lanthimos, if you've seen his films are not crowd pleasers. They are very weird. They're very abnormal, but at the same time, it's why I love the guy as well as a director. He's one of my favorite directors, because this is a director that meets what I want to see when someone directs a film: ambitious, original, and brave filmmaking as well. And every single film of his filmography meets that regard. I mean, Poor Things was very, very. Poor Things is my personal favorite, and was very close to be my favorite movie of the year. Kinds of Kindness. I think maybe Poor Things, The Lobster, and The Cave of Sacred Deer, probably I prefer them, and even The Favourite, probably I prefer them than this. But I was still fascinated by this film. I mean, this movie not once bored me, despite its lengthy runtime. But I do agree with you a bit, Andrea, that the last story goes a bit far too long, in my opinion as well. Maybe because we were tired, but I really liked the premise of the last story, without spoiling anything, by the way. But the execution was good, but like I said, with Yorgos was a little bit too ambitious with that story, I felt. And I think it was a bit far too ambitious. But going back to the weird stuff with this film, you know what scene I'm talking about, Andrea. Basically, the second story ends, and we basically transition from the second story to the third story, and animals are involved. and it's like the most random scene only Yorgos does those scenes like that. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly which scene I'm talking about. It's just a transitional scene, and only again, very few directors escape scenes like typical scenes like what we've seen during those transitions. But again, Yorgos Lanthimos is one of the very few directors that can pull off or execute scenes that are so dark and so nasty and so weird as that scene I mentioned as well. And this movie has like 4 or 5 scenes that have that shock value. And one thing I'm so impressed with Yorgos Lanthimos is that he still finds new ways to shock the audience with each story presented. And with the performances, Jesse Plemons is the standout here. Absolutely, Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe and Hunter Schafer and Hong Chau, Mamadou Atia and Joe Alwyn, they're all great, but Jesse Plemons steals this entire movie. He's outstanding in all 3 stories. And ever since Breaking Bad, this actor has been knocking it out of the park with every single movie, even with The Power of the Dog, with Killers of the Flower Moon, and now with this one. I'm not sure he will get an Oscar nomination for this film. Maybe it's a bit too early, but
I hope he does. I think he.
I hope he does. He deserves it because he fully disappears into the role, especially in the first story, as I mentioned, with his dynamic with Willem Dafoe. So fascinating to watch. But overall, not my favorite Lanthimos film, but I really liked it. I would give it. I gave it like an 85% on my Letterboxd.
Okay.
On my Letterboxd account, like a 4 stars, because as weird, as dark as it is, and maybe not as impactful as his other films, I still think Poor Things this is easily his best movie to date, because I adore that movie so much. I was still impressed by that movie. A tad over long towards some portions, especially towards the end. But again, Lanthimos is making a new movie next year called Bugonia. Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons are going to be in that movie, and I'm going to be on board on opening night. I'm going to be watching that movie absolutely 100%. Even that premise of the film looks absolutely bizarre, by the way. So bring me more of his stuff. Right now, this guy, Yorgos Lanthimos, he's a movie-making machine at the moment, and the more the movies, the better. And he's with the success he has with his movies, especially Poor Things and The Favorite, he's really confident now on what he's aiming and he's trying to become. But yeah, overall, really like Kinds of Kindness. I think it would sneak into my top 10 come end of the year, but obviously still more movies to come out towards the latter stages of the year. But I have to warn everyone, this movie is not for everyone. I have to stress this. I can't stress this enough. This movie is not for everyone. I can see a lot of people not liking this film, but at least I'm one of the minority that actually really enjoyed this movie. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
All right, and to conclude the podcast, Jan, the movie man said, when you say this is a lot, do you mean as in give you a headache, like Uncut Gems a lot? I wouldn't say it's like the anxiety that Uncut Gems gives you. It's more on the heavy themes, lots going on.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Uncut Gems was exhausting because it makes you feel anxious because of the situation Adam Sandler is going through. But this movie, it's a lot because there's so much heavy shit going on with what the characters are going through and with the teams going on. I mean, before the movie started, Yorgos Papaparsis, the editor, who had the masterclass in the morning, and he basically he had like a few minutes. He had like a brief speech before the start of the movie, and he warned and basically he told me the exact same words he told me after the masterclass. He said, "This is a very dark movie. It's not one you should enjoy watching it, but at the same time, just engage yourself in the movie you're watching." But this movie is not one you're going to be watching multiple times because it's a lot. It's nearly 3 hours long, and it's basically 165 minutes of heavy shit. I mean that's the best way to describe it.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
So with that, Jan, I think we can conclude the podcast. We had a good 2 hours. Thank you so much to all the viewers and listeners who joined us today on the Ad Lib Podcast, with all your comments, all your likes, all your, well, sorry, not comments, because Franco will call me a boomer again. All your messages in chat, all your likes. And if you're watching this after, because obviously we do this live, but then it's available on YouTube to be watched any day, anytime you wish. If you want to go to sleep, listening to me and Jan speaking, go ahead. So thank you everyone who joined us. Big thank you to Jan. Jan, where can people find you?
On my Instagram account, on my podcast, if it's Top Lounge. If anyone wants to know about my thoughts on certain movies, I have my Letterboxd account. Yanisman98 is my handle. You can check out my reviews on my Letterboxd account. As for socials, Instagram will be the one to follow me on. Also Facebook as well. But Instagram and Letterboxd, yeah, those are my two goals. And my podcast, obviously, if it's Top Lounge. If anyone wants to follow my podcast, if any of our listeners are Formula One fans, please follow us. It would be the mean to us. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And tomorrow you'll be releasing the day after tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow recording, and Wednesday, probably like Wednesday evening, it will be out. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you, the Movie Man. Always a fun time here on the Ad Lib Podcast. Always have a blast. Thank you, Jan, like I said, for joining us today. And see you guys next week on the Ad Lib Podcast.